Namaste and hello everyone. I am Dr. Kapil, welcoming you all at Sriram's IAS. As you know, we have been discussing certain news, certain things which are happening around us in a very geographical way. Whatever we discuss, we look at it from a very geographical point of view. Because my aim is the people who are going for geography optionals, they must get some support from me as well. So today the topic is going to be very interesting because this has been a topic which has been discussed, for last few weeks or say month per se. This is the geographical perspective of the India-Pakistan conflict. Now, when we talk about conflicts, if something is permanent between India and Pakistan, since their existence, as soon as the Pakistan was created in 1947, the conflict has been a constant. It is something which is very permanent. The conflict has been happening all around the corner in all the walks of life, be it say economy, polity, say infrastructure, say geopolitics, say geography, say economy, or say cricket matches as well. The conflict has been there all around the corner. In all walks of life, you will find certain conflict between India and Pakistan. But my job is today to give you something, the conflicts between India from a very geographical point of view. How these conflicts, we can actually look at them from geography. Because let me tell you, geography is something which is very deterministic. Geography, for example, we cannot decide who will be our neighbor, right? If there's Pakistan, there's China, there's Bangladesh, we cannot do anything about it. We cannot erase that part of the world. So it is something very deterministic. Whatever we got, we have to deal with it. So this is called as deterministic or say determinism. As वाजपेयी जी यूज टू से कि हम अपने पड़ोसियों को चुन नहीं सकते, जो मिले हैं उन्हीं से काम चलाना है. Now, here I would like to explain all these problems between India and Pakistan through say geographical concept. Now, first, that is geopolitical angle, say of location and say strategic geography per se. Here, what are the scenarios? Let me tell you, the core idea is Kashmir, where geography makes it a geopolitical pivot. You think Kashmir, it is an area kind of shatter belt. It is confined between एक तरफ क्या है पाकिस्तान, एक तरफ अफगानिस्तान, एक तरफ से चाइना भी है. Say earlier there was Tibet, तो तिब्बत का भी part was attached, and say this is part of India, तो obviously India है ही वहाँ पे. So this is an area where lot of powers, lot of players are involved. So it is a geopolitical pivot where strategic height, access to trade routes and proximity to adversarial states multiply its value. That means it is a very strategic place. It is a very strategic location. If Kashmir is under control of say any player, likewise say this time India, we have control over Kashmir, majority of it. So we are actually in advantage. Let me tell you, we have lot of geographical advantages over Pakistan. Now, through its geographical perspective, let me tell you, it is so important that we got Operation Meghdoot run say in 1984. This was an operation where I will just show you on the map. You see here, this is an area. This area is called as Siachen Glacier. Now this Siachen Glacier, this was part of say India. Now earlier what used to happen, Pakistani used to occupy this, but as soon as India got an opportunity, India run this operation called as Operation Meghdoot, and we captured the Siachen Glacier. Now Siachen Glacier is very important. Why? Because it's a very strategic location. Why? Because say from one side, this is called as Sakshgam Valley. It's a very uninhabited area. ज़्यादा लोग रहते नहीं हैं यहाँ पे. But this area was gifted by Pakistan to China. And China, being such a Battamiz country, I would say, the Chinese, they knew that this is a dispute between India and Pakistan, and still they took it. Why? We don't know. In fact, we know, because China being China is a very aggressive country. So they took it. Now Sakshagam is a part of China now. Uninhabited, ज़्यादा लोग नहीं है वहाँ पे, बहुत लोग survival condition बहुत strong नहीं है वहाँ पे. Now this is Siachen Glacier. From here, Nubra Valley is also very much visible. Here, from Srinagar to Leh Ladakh, there's a road called as National Highway 1. This also passes. So if you can have this place in our control, we can have lot of control over this place. Here, Kargil is also here. Likewise, there are lot many strategic places. So we got Operation Meghdoot and Siachen was captured. If you can look at this map, you find that this is the black line is the point where India is controlling the territory, and beyond that this is part of India only but not controlled by India. For example, this part, this is called as POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and this part it is called as your Pak occupied Gilgit Baltistan, again which is part of now Ladakh territory, Ladakh Union Territory. हमने इसको डिस्कस किया है उसमें कि लद्दाख में ही अब इस पार्ट को भी रखेंगे. So this is again become part of Ladakh Union Territory but again controlled by Pakistanis. This part after 1962 war, Chinese actually captured some part of India, Ladakh. This is Chinese occupied area. This is called as Aksai Chin, and some part below also Himachal के थोड़ा सा पास में वहाँ पे this is called as part of Tibet. They call it as, and they have also occupied this part of India. Now tell me, this is a region having so many people around. Say this is also this Wakhan corridor. It is just 106 kilometer of boundary, but still attached to this Jammu and Kashmir region, say Gilgit Baltistan. So tell me, this place confined or say surrounded by so many players, don't you think it becomes very, very, very strategic? If you look at this Sakshagam Valley case, which I told you in 1960, what happened is 1962 war mein, there was India and China were involved. As soon as Pakistan saw this, they saw, okay, India has another enemy known as China, so let's be friend with it. So since then, China and Pakistan are friends because they have a common enemy called as India. And as you know, as a good gesture, Pakistanis, they actually gifted this area. I'm very sure that they did not only give this, they would have taken a lot of money for this, or some kind of advantages they would have taken, because Pakistan is such a country which will always ask for money, as we have seen in the recent cases. You know, they are demanding for money, or say for very long they have been wanting money from different players, be it IMF or be it say some other nation. So this is Sakshagam Valley under the control of China. Now you also see this is CPEC. Now here this is the region यहाँ पे Karakoram Pass है nearby. From there the Chinese have got their highway which is connecting to Gwadar. Gwadar, there's a port, you know, Gwadar port, and there it is connecting. I'll show you here. Now see, this is the part which says Aksai Chin, this is the part called as Siachen Glacier, and this is a very strategic point from where we can have a lot of control. If you see this Siachen Glacier, just the micro mapping of it, and here this is the Nubra River or say Nubra Valley, and here we can have a good look from this. This is the point, this is the highway connecting Srinagar to Kashmir, right? And from this point, यहाँ पे कश्मीर है. This Kashmir से we can, यहाँ पे Kargil है. This Kargil can actually give you an opportunity to look at that highway. So that also becomes very strategic. And you see this CPEC, right, starting from China and going through say this Gilgit Baltistan, Islamabad, and say Lahore to Gwadar. This place, Gwadar. So this is an economic corridor connecting, you know, China's bigger vision of one belt, one road, or say one huge infrastructural project they have been creating in all other countries. So the older silk routes and etc. they want to actually re-energize that. Now India has never accepted this CPEC project. India has not entered. India was offered also, but India did not India did not go into that project. Why? Because it affects our sovereignty. If you see this CPEC, it is passing through Pakistan occupied Gilgit Baltistan and Kashmir, which is part of India, and that is why India has never, you know, agreed to these CPEC projects, and India always keep opposing this because China is subverting our sovereignty, and this is not acceptable. Because if we do the same, China becomes very agitated. So these are called as hypocrisies. If I do, this is right. If you do, no, this is wrong. So this is something we'll also not tolerate. Now, all of this actually leads us to this. The real life situation is the high altitude control means India maintains year-round troops in harsh terrain where altitude is equal to power. This is important. As I told you, these are the high areas. Now these high areas, because of their altitude, because of their surveillance skill, because of their vision, they have become very strategic. Without controlling the heights, the lower valleys become militarily irrelevant. What if the peaks are captured? Kashmir Valley is very vulnerable. What if peaks are captured? Nubra Valley will be very much, in problem. Galwan Valley will be in problem. So if you want to save your valley, you need to capture the heights. That is very much strategic in nature. And that is why Kashmir becomes an area where lot of players are involved just to capture the heights. If you remember the Kargil war, we lot of peaks were there जिनको हम कैप्चर करना चाहते थे और उन्हीं को कैप्चर करने में हमारे कितने जवान शहीद हुए थे. Remember? Why they wanted to capture those? Because of the strategic location, because of the strategic scope they provide. So this is what we have just done. This is just one part. Now second is boundary dispute, be it LOC or say unsettled borders. Now here the core area is, you see, the boundaries like LOC and Sir Creek are not just political lines, they are laid across complex physical geography, glaciers, rivers, marshes which shift or defy definition. See, all these boundaries which are there, there are certain boundaries which are very stable. For example, Himalayas. Himalaya is a boundary between India and China. Very stable probably. तो उतना ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम नहीं है at certain places. कुछ कुछ जगहों पे है, but not all these places. What if you have an ocean between you? अब suppose से इंडिया है और एक तरफ ईरान है, क्या हमारा boundary dispute है? Nothing. But in case of India and Pakistan, there are a lot of boundaries which can shift season by season. Suppose river changing their course, glaciers retreating, lakes drying up, or say some lakes which are filled with water say in monsoon time, but they get dried up in the summers. So what should we consider them, as a water body or as a land body? So this again creates a lot of implication when it comes to boundary definitions. I will give you an example of this Sir Creek dispute. Now if you see this Kargil war or say Sir Creek and Run of Kutch dispute mein, the real impact is this. LOC is not fixed because glacial retreat, river migration and seasonal access change, the ground situation, even map reading becomes an art of topographic interpretation, not just a legal question. Now it is not about ki LOC kahan se jani hai, but on paper you have done this, ki theek hai, this is from this point to this point, the LOC should move. But the thing is, if that LOC has to be put onto the ground, how are you going to do that? For example, आपने बोला from this peak to this peak, this is the boundary. But while अब वो peak पे थोड़े तार लगा दोगे आप. Now तार लगाने के लिए you have to go down in the valley. तो जो valley में जाओगे तो एक एक ईंट के लिए लड़ाई होती है, एक एक इंच के लिए लड़ाई है कि नहीं ये वाला पार्ट यहाँ पे रहेगा, ये वाला पार्ट यहाँ पे. So there are a lot of interpretations. The same thing happens with Chinese also. India and China जब ये बात करते हैं आपस में, the same thing happens there as well. So on ground implementation of these lines is very problematic and very disputable at times, and because of which controversies arise. Now talking about this Sir Creek dispute, let me tell you, it's a very 96-kilometer long estuary. यहाँ पे generally the water is there, right? This is a tidal creek, तो समंदर का पानी रहता है, but at times it also gets dried up. Now Pakistan says it is a land, India says it is a water body. So what is the difference? क्यों बोल रहे हैं दोनों अलग अलग? एक ही चीज बोल के खत्म क्यों नहीं करते? The thing is, if it is a land, then Pakistan will say this is their boundary. Say this green line, this is the boundary they should accept. India should accept. This is what they say. But India says it is a water body, and any water body, यहाँ पे water body में there is a thing called as Thalweg principle. Thalweg principle. Now here, suppose this is the deepest point. So India says whatever the deepest point is, wahan se there must be the demarcation. This is part of say Pakistan and this should be part of India. India is saying this. But if it is land, Pakistan is claiming is till this point. And see, India's claim is till this point. See, in the middle of this, because this is a water body. And this is very important. Say there's a potential of gas, oil, petroleum, fishing. So there are a lot of opportunities. So India cannot, leave that. In fact, it is strategically very important. What if intrusion starts taking place from that area? So this is the Sir Creek dispute. Pakistan says no, according to colonial map, this should be the line. India says no, this is a water body, so we should follow that Thalweg principle. So this is how the dispute is. So I'm saying all these dispute from a very geographical angle. I hope you are enjoying this geographical part, geographical lens. Now then there is hydrogeography, that is Indus river system and water politics, and which has been happening around, say, India suspended that water treaty. Now इसमें होता क्या है? For example, see, the Indus basin is a dendritic river system formed by snowmelt from glaciers and monsoon runoff. India's control over headwaters gives it strategic leverage, while Pakistan's low riparian state makes it vulnerable. That means all these rivers, say Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas, Satluj, first they will pass through India and then they will go to Pakistan. So if India wants, India can do anything with these rivers because first we are party to it. However, the same thing China can also claim, because China may be, there are a lot of rivers, for example, Indus or say Satluj, they are coming from China or say Tibet. So when it comes to India, China is in advantage. When it comes to India and Pakistan, India is in advantage because of being upper riparian country. Now here you understand these 6 rivers or say 5 rivers, this is called as Panchnath. Now Indus and its tributaries, because these are transboundary. So 1960 में under the leadership of World Bank there was an agreement कि ठीक है भाई ये water को हम divide करते हैं. कैसे करते हैं? Let's understand. Now, if you see this Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Vyas, Satluj, these 3 rivers, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab, they were considered as western rivers. And these Ravi, Vyas, Satluj, they were considered as eastern rivers. Now, for the western rivers, majority of the rights, I'm saying majority, were given with Pakistan. And for these 3 eastern rivers, that is Chenab, Beas and Satluj, the majority of the rights were given with India. If you want, you can do anything, any type of dam, any type of irrigation project or any kind of project you can make, whatever you want. But here, India in all these 3 rivers, that is western mein, India has limited rights. You cannot make big dam or something like that, right? Or say big project. You can not stop the water per se. But India has suspended that treaty, so India is trying to do that. अभी तक तो हमने क्या देखा था? आपने चिनाब, रावी, ब्यास, सतलज, चिनाब का भी पानी हमने रोक दिया था, right? तो फिर it was just against that treaty. But what we can do? Because Pakistan again, और क्या word use करूँ? Such a बदतमीज country. और मैं क्या word use करूँ? So because of which we have to be cautious, we have to take action on all the fronts. सारे फ्रंट पे लेना पड़ेगा, तभी जाके वो शायद कंट्री सुधरने का तो मुझे स्कोप नहीं दिखता, बट ठीक है, whatever happens, probably it will falter any day, है ना? It is very famous that Pakistan can happen, 2 Pakistan, 3, 4 Pakistan, probably any day. So this is the 2 nation theory for them, I guess. Now here the thing is, real life impact is the climate change and the glacial melt, monsoon, at times there's a lot of water, at times there is very dry period of water. So this is creating a lot of pressure on these Indus water basin as well, and adding war, adding tensions, adding geopolitics to it, it will not be very beneficial for Pakistan. So Pakistan has to be very cautious because India has advantage here. India is in the driving seat. Now, terrain as a military factor. See, whatever we have been discussing, it's very from a geographical point of view. Now, military also takes geography into account, because military's planning, execution, or say any kind of work has to go through geography of the land. What type of terrain it has, what type of ridges it has, what type of glaciers, what type of valleys, what type of roads. So military action has to respect the geography. So military में geography बहुत पढ़ाई जाती है. In fact, cartography, topographical studies, they are so much studied in military only. In fact, geography का जो cartography की शुरुआत है, it actually happened because of the military operations only. तो इस तरह से शुरुआत होती है. Now यहाँ पे क्या है? The core idea is Himalayas, Karakoram, Zanskar range create natural fortresses. Altitude, slope, aspect, and relief define the visibility, accessibility, and defensibility of a terrain. That means, depending upon your location, where you are you at height, are you in the valley, it will give you certain advantage or disadvantage. So India, because our national interest lies in controlling all those features, all those points, which will be proving advantages for us when it comes to war or say military actions. And that is why we have put so many people in say Siachen, there's a data, it was given in parliament that lot of people, lot of our soldiers, they have been killed in Siachen because of the harsh climate. Not even Pakistanis, not even Chinese incursion because of that. No, it is just because of the harsh climate of that place. And this is the cost we are paying just because of the geography we have, just because of the geography, or say the kind of players we have around the Kashmir region. Now, real life impact is control over terrain features like mountain passes, ridgelines, glacial tongues, and logistics. That means your logistics will be taken care of if you have all these features under control. Survival terrain dictates supply lines and not strategy alone. Now, in military sense, if you say, the supply line is very important, right? Supply line is very important. What if you are in war and supply line is cut? You are not getting any ration, you are not getting any ammunition. Now you're done. You cannot do anything. So the supply lines must be protected. आपको पता है 1965 के वॉर में एट प्लेसेस जहां पे 1965 में भी और 1999 में भी एट प्लेसेस जहां पे हमारे टैंक्स नहीं पहुंच पा रहे थे, हमने टैंक्स को उसको उसको ब्रेकअप किया, उसको हमने म्यूल्स पे जो खच्चर होते हैं उन पे लादा, देन वी एक्चुअली टुक इट इनटू द हाइट्स एंड देयर वी एक्चुअली असेंबल्ड इट अगेन and then we used it. So the supply line is very important. And right now actually India has been trying to build all the infrastructure in all these strategic positions, and that is very much commendable because we have seen war, we have seen difficult times, what this can actually cause. Now this is the terrain dictates supply lines and not strategy alone. Now if you see this, now here you see this is Siachen, here you see Kargil, here all these, see Srinagar, Badgam, Anantnag, Jammu, and here Leh. And this is how it is connected, your that NH1. Tell me, in Kargil when 1999 the incursion happened, what happened? Actually this is the line of control, but Pakistanis, what they did, they actually wanted to make a kind of revenge of that Siachen Glacier. They thought they would be able to capture this. Now they thought that once Indians actually get down in the winters, because there's so much of winter in the Kargil, so from the upper post, once they get down, so actually they came, suppose this is the hilltop and suppose Indians are here, right? So what they did before Indians reach, they actually reached here on the river slope, यहीं पे आके वो बैठ गए, ठीक है? As soon as they got the chance, यहाँ पे आके उसको capture कर लिया. And this is how we lost our strategic location. And just to capture back again, we had to go for a all-out war, that is Kargil war. Now actually this was the area of intrusion. See, in all these places they came down, in fact under the LOC from say on the Indian side they came, and just to repel them we have to actually launched our military action. So all these places, be it Moscow, Dras, Kaksar, Kargil, all these places were getting the news of intrusion at that time. And this is our national highway NH1D. See all these, and tell me if they have the position here, don't you think it will become very problematic? Because this highway एकदम उनके निशाने पे था, no truck was able to move, and this was very problematic. तो ये सारी peaks capture करने की वजह यही थी, so that the supply line can be secured. Supply line can be secured. Through map I have actually seen this. Now there's another makeup called as ethno-geographical and cultural regions. This is another factor here. See, the core idea here is the geography of identity. Here, ethnicity, religion, language is mapped over mountains, valleys, and rivers. Ecological zones correspond to cultural zones, making political unity harder. Now, there's a concept. What is this? First, you understand this, then I will give you that concept. Say, in the Kashmir Valley, I'm not talking about historical perspective of it, what is present today, I'm just talking about that. It is dominated by Muslim people. Jammu division probably dominated by Hindus and say Dogras. Ladakh region is mostly dominated by Buddhist people. Now, just to be a region or just to be a nation, you know what is nation? What do you consider as nation? Nation is not just the terrain. Nation is not just the buildings. Nation is not just the boundary. Nation is actually an idea. For example, Israel as a nation was an idea. Even when there was no Israel as a land, जहाँ पे आज Israel है, when there was no Israel, but Israel was living in the minds of Jewish people that there must be a country for us that is called as Israel. वो idea था, idea got executed, उनको जमीन मिल गई, and now they have a state. They have a state. Nation was the idea. Now tell me, India, suppose, or say this Kashmir. Kashmir mein, there are a lot of people. And this idea, I'm talking about the idea of nation. It can be, say, cultural, it can be religious, it can be language, it can be anything. For example, France. France is a nation. Why? Because people speak French. Germany is a nation. Why? Because they speak German. Like this. For example, Pakistan is a nation. Why? Because they believe in one religion called as, say, Islam. But here, say, in Kashmir, there are a lot of people, Muslims, different identity, Hindus and Dogra, different identities, Buddhist, different identities. Now, here, centrifugal forces are very strong. That is, the tendency to get separated is very strong. For example, Ladakh also wanted to get separated from Kashmir. Why? Because they believed, or they actually, this is what happened. In their history, they were actually very much, not given any favor, or say there were a lot of bias against them. So they were not getting a lot of help from the Kashmir government. They were part of it. So they wanted to be separate. So yes, they are separate now, probably for their betterment. And say in Jammu division, Hindus and Dogras dominate. So they have a different politics, probably more aligned with the central politics. But when it comes to Kashmir, because of, say, their Muslim identity, Pakistan tries to get benefit out of it. Yes, it has its agenda that all the Muslims, should think for, say, Pakistan. It actually wants to be a leader for Muslims in the whole world. है ना, पैसा है नहीं, खाने को है नहीं, कपड़े हैं नहीं, ड्रोन सही से है नहीं, एमुनिशन है नहीं, लेकिन नेता बनना है. चलो कोई बात नहीं, बन जाओ आप नेता, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. बट मुस्लिम्स ऑफ इंडिया ये उनको हाईजैक करने की कोशिश करता है कि आप भी हमारे हो. बट दिस टाइम से पहलगाम एंड द ऑपरेशन सिंदूर, it was very visible that all these people, say, all these big leaders, say Asasuddin Owaisi, they spoke so much against the Pakistan and also in support of India that their mind would be clear. And in fact, they tried to make this difference, or they tried to create a say rift between Hindus and Muslims in that region. They are not successful because we are, as a nation, we are so strong. But the thing is, in Kashmir, there can be few people who can be influenced by such narration, by such narratives. If you increase radicalism, if you increase this kind of extremism, full of religion is everything type of thing, if you create this narrative, there can be people who can get influenced by it and probably, say, we talk about overground workers. What are they? Probably, yes, influenced because of this, because of that radicalism, because of the program run by ISI and Pakistan. That means this thing can create a lot of problem. I mean, this whole diversity can create lot of problem. The situation is very problematic, and this is what Indian government and, say, military of India tries to handle. So this becomes very problematic. You can see this, and the real life impact is ethno-geographic split between regions often informs voting patterns, language demands, and conflict perception. Probably, say, when it comes to voting pattern, and Buddhist will not go and vote, say, party, say, National Conference, or say the political party of Mehbooba Mufti, right? Jammu region, lot of people, say, Hindus and Dogras, they vote for, say, central parties, or say BJP as such. Say Ladakh mein, it is also a mix then. So it is not a clear-cut thing. So here the diversity is not only religious, but also cultural, but also political, but also at the development level as well. So the diversity is very great, and that is why centrifugal forces are very strong. That is, the tendency to get separated is very strong. Development models must be topographically and culturally tailored. One size fits all fails here. Now here what it's suggesting this, the development for Kashmir, the development for Jammu, and the development for Ladakh, it must be seen through different lenses. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि एक plan बनाया and all the things are done. All the things are done. No. Because Kashmir mein probably you need more development. Jammu is probably a bit more developed. कश्मीर में प्रोबेबली एजुकेशन और चाहिए, कश्मीर में प्रोबेबली थोड़ी इंडस्ट्रीज और चाहिए, आपको लद्दाख वाला एरिया में से टूरिज्म हमारा एक बहुत बड़ा पर्सपेक्टिव है वहां पे देने का, कनेक्टिविटी चाहिए हमको. सो डिफरेंट डिफरेंट प्लेसेस के लिए डिफरेंट डिफरेंट डेवलपमेंटल प्लान्स शुड बी देयर. So this is what it is saying. Now you see this here, this is the Kashmir Valley dominated by say Muslims, here Jammu, Hindus and Dogras, and this is your Ladakh, say more influenced by Tibetan culture and more of Buddhist people living here. So this is the makeup of this area, and all these other places to हमारे control में नहीं है, but this is part of India, but that's what we are talking about. Now you see this is another cultural map, probably for better visualization. Now, geographical concept in conflict understanding, what you should focus upon. See, advanced geographical concept help interpret the complex and dynamic nature of the India-Pakistan conflict in regional context. Kaise? For example, I have been using this word shatter belt. For example, suppose this is Kashmir. From one side you have Pakistan. एक side पे you have this Afghanistan. Another side you have this China. Probably earlier it was also Tibet, you can say. Tibet bhi to tha. And then it is again part of India. So tell me how many players are involved? So many players are involved. And these players, they are also not sharing very, say, bonhomie or say friendship. They are always at conflict, always at tension. तो कोई भी ऐसा एरिया जहाँ पे टेंशन, जहाँ पे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होगी, तो टेल मी उस एरिया में प्रॉब्लम होगी या नहीं होगी? बिल्कुल होगी. Now you see a thing called as frontier versus boundary. बाउंड्री का क्या मतलब होता है? there's a single line which actually separates two places. For example, Red Cliff line separating India and Pakistan, line of control separating Indian Kashmir versus or say separating it from Pakistan occupied Kashmir, उसे separate करता है. But the frontier is something, it's a zone of transition where there's no clear demarcation. Probably the influence starts decreasing and the other's influence starts increasing. So this is a zone of transition, and when there's a zone of transition, that is also become a zone of tension. क्यों? क्योंकि कोई एक तरफ आगे आके कैप्चर करना चाहेगा, कोई दूसरी तरफ आगे जाके कैप्चर करना चाहेगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यू टेक एग्जाम्पल ऑफ अफगानिस्तान. अफगानिस्तान एक समय ब्रिटिश इंडिया और रशिया के बीच में एक फ्रंटियर था, लाइक अ ट्रांजिशन जोन. सो एक बफर जोन की तरह था. बट कश्मीर में द प्रॉब्लम इज एवरीबडी वांट्स टू, सपोज इस बफर में आकर के एवरीबडी, चाइना इधर चाहता है, पाकिस्तान इधर चाहता है, एंड इंडिया ऑब्वियसली इंडिया का सारा है, तो हम तो सारा ही चाहेंगे, है ना, हमको तो सारा ही चाहिए, हमारा है, ठीक है. सो दैट इज व्हाई इट बिकम्स जोन ऑफ टेंशन. एंड द जियो स्ट्रेटेजिक चोक पॉइंट्स, फॉर एग्जांपल आई गिव यू द एग्जांपल ऑफ से गालवान वैली, आई गिव यू द एग्जांपल ऑफ say Siachen Glacier, Kargil, right, Dras, all these places, they are very strategic in nature because height gives you that advantage so that you can supervise and surveillance. And then real life impact is these choke points turn inaccessible mountain passes into sites of infrastructure investment, satellite surveillance and territorial assertion. These are the strategic points जहाँ पे हमको चाहिए ही चाहिए, हमको चाहिए ही चाहिए, ठीक है. For example, Siachen Glacier, it was actually controlled by Pakistan till 1984, लेकिन हमको चाहिए था, so we went there, we captured it, now this is ours. So this is what it is. If it is very advantageous for us, if it comes for our own advantage, we'll try our best to capture that. And this is what our mission is, this is what our motto is, this is how our military works. And that is the whole geographical angle or geographical perspective between India and Pakistan conflicts. I have not included your political or say economic per se, because it is solely your geographical perspective of India and Pakistan conflicts. So thank you very much for listening me, and this is where you can follow me. This is the Telegram channel. You can always get connected to me there. The comment section is always open there, and this is my Twitter ID or say X pay. I'm here with this name. So thank you very much. Thank you for hearing me out. Thanks again. Bye.